Ponsbrook,
Very-
yeah. Check out the observation on Slooh.
I'll get that email.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was Yari. Somebody did it.
Probably was Yari, or maybe.
Look it
who
up.
knows?
Yeah, it was just a couple frames, but it looked pretty nice in that image. We're actually starting to see
It's
something there, which was just
Something
kind of
came off in that Slooh observation. Something came off the comment. I'll
Well,
see if
that's
he
right.
commented. He
it's flared up
remarked on that.
again. It flared up again just lately.
Yeah, looks like it lost some mass.
Yeah, and it's gotten brighter again, so it's back on the books for.
Well, it's going to be high in the sky on the time of the next eclipse.
Yeah,
The
I
theory
think
is you'll be able to see it in the midday with if the sun dims
I
enough.
think it's clocking around 11th magnitude now again. So yeah.
He
Well,
was
maybe
saying
we'll get to more of that later on in the show.
Sure,
We'll touch it, but let's get started. This is live with Tuesdays at 8. And to start the show off with Jenny and Mark and our sunny report. Take it away, you guys.
You want to throw up the slides from Star Party
Absolutely.
discussion? There you go. Expand them as much as you can.
Ooh, this is gorgeous.
Hey, Jenny, go ahead. We can't hear you.
This is the Charlie Chaplin version.
Okay, I'm unmuted now.
There we go.
Yeah. Missed it. Goodbye. It'll cycle.
So much for that. Okay, welcome to our report on the sun after all the excitement of the annular eclipse. We're going to start out with the lovely image that Carol Botha put out there in Slooh Observations, where she did an animation for us. This is from the live feed that help me out, Nick Rotundo provided for us with his equipment in whatever part of Texas he was in. It escapes me right now.
El Dorado.
Okay. And if you look carefully on all of the animations for the sunspots against the solar surface, the sunspots are fairly clearly visible as the moon is covering parts of the sun, and they're the dark areas. It was more interesting because we were seeing the clouds pass between Nick's camera, Nick's solar viewing equipment and the sun during the eclipse. And so it kept revealing and then covering them up and then revealing them again as the progression of the eclipse went on. All right. And then most of us were in different places during the eclipse and had differing experiences. And how many of us were in the eclipse path and how many of us were just in the partial eclipse? I was in the partial, but I had a good time spending a few minutes jumping away from the computer with the Slooh feed and its partner feeds and going outside and with my eclipse glasses, catching the sun at the various points of the more important points of the eclipse. And I had a few clouds getting my way too, but fortunately I had enough clear spots that I really enjoyed the actual viewing with my own sight in the sky. And the live stream was provided by Nick Rotundo, and we had some really great live streams from Slooh partners as well. So it was a really interesting event. And we found out from our Slooh staff that they created a new Moments Slooh Quest for the Ring of Fire solar eclipse. And we could click on the images through the event page to get pictures from Nick's live feed. So that was pretty great to have that. And then if you look through on Slooh, you can see a number of people that shared their observations and images in Discord or in the Slooh observations. So take advantage of checking those out. All right. I could watch this forever. I just love the color schemes and the motion on the clouds
I know
going by.
Carol did a great job on this. It's really
Clouds
fascinating.
are a lot of fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, the clouds actually added like a beautiful dynamic to that. So cool. Great share. Great share. Oops.
Okay, let's flip on to slide 2 and 3. I had snapped an image from Nick's feed to
nearly perfect, I must say that.
Well, the image I picked, this is the one that I sent the image to Mac. Mark went ahead and got around to processing it to kind of bring out, because we knew that there were prominences along the edge, and he played with it a little bit, and you can see the prominences on the edges there. So it's much more dynamic the way he processed it than it would have been from the original image. So I really appreciate the fact that he did that for us, and we could share it tonight as well. And
Yeah, rings just get boring, right?
yeah, Mark and I
Boring
partner
rings,
a lot
boring.
with trying to get, maximize some images for you in Solar Chat and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, then the image that's next to it, if you bring that up, Gretchen, that's an image that Mark, your sister, right, Marie, snapped,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you shared that with us as well. Where was she when she took the image?
She didn't take this image. She uploaded it from somewhere. I think
Okay,
it was
so
probably a Roswell image. Yeah,
Okay.
Roswell feed, which is also in the
Ooh,
path, but it's
Roswell.
Los
And
Alamos and Roswell were both off-centered a little bit. So you
but
get
you
this
can
kind
see
of
the
effect.
coloration here too is distinctive from some of the other feeds that we saw.
Yeah.
It's just always amazing to see the feeds and the images after the events that are on the web that you can check out. I could look at these all day.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Okay, moving on to slide 4. This is one taken on the 13th of this month, and on one of the days that we had some nice viewing. And Mark has gone ahead and taken 2 pieces of 2 different images and given us the chromosphere view of the sun. So if you move to the next image, Gretchen.
Oops, that's not where I want to go.
You'll
All
get
right,
there eventually.
talk amongst yourself. I was trying to message Hank. Hank was letting us know that he has really poor internet and isn't able to get into the show tonight. So let me bring Discord back up again. And we'll get on the feed. It looks like a lot of people did some really creative things with the images from this. Okay, where are we? Are we on slide 4?
Slide 4.
4.
The chromosphere whole disk from the image I snapped on the live feed on Canary 5 on the 13th of this month.
There we go. Hold on.
And for those people that try to take the 2 images and photo edit them into one, you can see the challenge is always that there's slightly different lighting on the
Yeah.
images that you put together, but that doesn't stop Mark and others from trying to achieve a full disk look. So it's a little darker on sometimes on one, and some people are really good at just managing to mask that dividing line that
Pretty
you
good
see here.
match.
There's a yeah, these were taken fairly close together, so they were a fairly good match to start with.
But
And
our
I
challenge
didn't want to work
is
all
always
day
the
on it.
clouds or shading and so forth.
Yeah.
There were 6 active regions with sunspots. There were filaments all the way across this particular image. It's a nice image for people to see what all the activity is during, especially during our solar cycle 25, which has been marvelous at providing us stuff. But what you see in the image is AR 3460 in the southwest was the largest and most complex sunspot group on that date and had been for several days. There were C-class solar flares from AR 3460 in the southwest, and the west is to the right in the image. East is the northeast and north and southeast. And active region 3465 also in the northeast, which at this point I think they're closer to the center.
Close to the
As,
middle. Yeah.
was also one that had C-class flares erupting. But over several days, these 2 and many other active regions have provided us loads of entertainment and visual excitement from their activity.
Always fun to look at these guys change from day to day. It's amazing.
And on the days that Canary is having cloud difficulties, we've provided a lot of images from other sources to keep people to keep track of where the different active regions are and the excitement level that they provide. So we're going to move on to Mark now to narrate the next view.
So So you all want prominences every week, so we got to show you prominences. So this was a good one in the northwest, near the poles. And the neat thing about Slooh's Canary 5 telescope is when it's tuned to this kind of view, it catches the sort of the instant plasma distribution. You can see the plasma balls, and you can see the little rays springing off each little plasma condensation. You don't see that in the movies. You see a totally different view, which we'll go to in a minute. But so with a little processing, you can see in a stop frame what is happening at any given moment in one of these plasma eruptions or arches. Let's look at the next slide. The next slide is a white light image without processing, showing the same area a little bit later in the
That's bright.
event, and the sun is brighter because it hasn't been processed to be dimmer, but you can see how the plasma arches change a lot from the previous picture. Same day, different hour. Just it's amazing how fast it changes. So on the third slide, you see the movie. You all want to see the movies, so we'll show you a movie here.
I like the movies.
The movies are fun because they show you this is 24 hours compressed into 7 seconds. So
Gives me
now you
some,
get
I
an
think the movies give me more context to really see what is happening.
yeah. Well, it gives you more information in over
Yeah.
a much longer period of time. So what we caught was 2 instants, 2 moments, and what this catches is 24 hours worth of every 15 minutes is a stop frame in this movie. So a lot of time passes. You can even see a flare going on the rim there during the movie, and yeah.
That's
So
very
the movie,
cool. Watching that hummingbird turn into a dolphin, that's pretty amazing.
I know, yeah, there've been a couple amazing prominences right in the same area this week.
Super
So,
cool.
Yeah, and Mark, these are the ones that are, what is it, the extreme ultraviolet imaging.
this is in the ultraviolet light. We can't see this at all. Whereas Slooh light is visible light. Yeah. So this is done with sensors that are beyond the human eyesight, rendered into red by artificial coloring.
And then what's this?
So we've reached the end of the show. So the Slooh made the big screen. So this is a giant screen that projected the annular eclipse the other day, and it was a Slooh feed.
Where is this
During
at?
part of this is in Los Alamos, where I live. So this is at the high school, and they had a big party, and they had a big screen show, and it was a heck of a lot of fun.
Oh my God, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so
Isn't that
cool.
amazing? Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
So,
And everybody
I don't know where
there.
they got the screen, but they probably borrowed it from the national lab next door.
Well,
How
That's
fun.
funny.
You're like, I do the sun show on that.
that's a
We
great
did.
display. Good idea.
That is an amazing. So everybody could see it without having to look in the sun if they
Really
didn't want to do
neat.
that.
Super
But we
neat.
all spent a lot of time looking at the sun directly with our little solar glasses, and
Indirectly with your
my
solar
my
glasses, I mean.
yeah, my 5-year-old niece was riveted to it, looking through her solar glasses. So it was
Yeah,
that was as much fun to see.
I actually I had to go to Best Buy that night. I was picking something up and this kid came out and I'm like, I said, don't forget the eclipse tomorrow. And he's like, oh, yeah, and I guess I'll watch it. And I'm like, I said, do you have glasses? And he's like, well, no. He's like, actually, I didn't even know it was happening. And I said, guess what? You're in luck. And I had like solar glasses in my car. And I'm like,
You gave him
here
one.
you go.
Well, it's much more fun if you can find an eclipse party to have fun at.
Yeah. Well, I unfortunately or fortunately had my own eclipse party
Oh,
that I was sort of tied to. So
okay. So, oh yeah, you were tied as a technician. Yep.
boom, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, great report, you guys. Fun shares about the sun. So that's awesome. And I'm now looking forward to turning it over to Keith to see what is up, because there's a lot that is up. And I also know he is going to talk a little bit about the eclipse and all of that kind of share stuff. So Keith, over to you. Are you here?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the eclipse. It's all eclipse. Let me get my camera turned on. Oh my goodness, I'm honestly just waking up.
Hello,
Hmm.
nappy nap. Well, I'm glad I
Well,
gave
you know,
you-
I'm in my sleep clothes and everything. Isn't this a surprise? I usually take a nap before we have the Tuesday show, and I overslept.
Well,
and
you're here now. That's
I
the
got a
only-
message, or I got a phone call from our producer, and I thought, why am I being called at 8 in the morning? It's just, I didn't know what time of day it was. I was tired. This is what happens if you didn't know, in all seriousness. When we do the Wednesday or the Tuesday show at 8, it's just kind of, it's very casual. We don't get, I'm still worn out from what we did on Saturday. We have a number of production meetings. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of nerves. Paul talks about, a show being nerve-wracking. It is. I mean, a lot of us are, professional speakers. And if you watch any of Paul's shows, he's been doing this for almost 20 years. He did a moon show where 1 million people, can you imagine 1 million people showed up? So we don't know if it's going to be, are you speaking to a couple hundred people, a couple thousand people, 100,000 people? So we're kind of getting over
So how many people showed up this time?
that whole thing. But it's,
I
I
don't know.
just
There's
wanna
been
look at
like
some-
over 11,000 views of the show, which is
Anyone-
fantastic. That we really got that
Wow.
those feeds and the eclipse and that educational like message out there, and all these people that got to experience it, and people are still like checking in, and yeah, it's great. I mean, really far reaching. So
Yeah, 11,000. Wow, that's small time. Let's look at some eclipse images. I wanted to look at some of the iconic images on Slooh that people have posted. Not just Carol's animation, but there is this one. Wow.
That's
So
symmetrical.
wow.
if you missed us, please go back and watch this show. I feel like I dropped the ball a couple times where, I was being asked questions that I just wasn't thinking along those lines. And this is kind of one of them. Why is an annular eclipse such a rare thing? For really two reasons. One, we have to have the eclipse condition, and that in and of itself is rare enough. The moon is on this 5-degree orbit around the Earth, and it's not perfect. So not only is it 5 degrees one way between the Earth and the sun, but it's also, it wobbles. So when Dr. John talks about those nodes, sometimes the nodes aren't between the Earth and the sun. The nodes can be over here, they can be over here, they could be really at any two opposing points on the clock. And to have that eclipse condition, which does happen every 6 months, is part of what makes an eclipse rare. And then annularity, not only do you have to be on the nodes, but the moon has to be far enough away from the Earth where it does not fully cover the disk of the sun. Now, we didn't get into the chance of little experiments that we can try at home, but I've got my little cap here. I'm going to use this. Maybe we'll look at this image first, and then I'll show you how you can do this at home to prove to yourself that the moon does not fully cover the sun. Of course, we don't need to compare or do little experiments, because here we see it right here. The moon is not fully covered. I ran some projections. I talked about magnitude. This is not like the magnitude of a star. We can talk about the magnitude of an eclipse, and that magnitude is what number, not even really a percentage, what number closest to 1 is the eclipse going to be. So if we think of an annular, or if we think of an eclipse being a 1, That's where the moon is the same size as the sun. You're going to have a total eclipse. It can be greater than one. The moon can actually be close enough to it that it's covering more of the sun. A lot of times when we watch an eclipse, we think there is no way, because this is what it looks like, that the moon is going to fit into the sun. And it doesn't matter if it does or not, because it's going to just totally cover the sun, not just close to it, but by a percentage or by a magnitude greater than 1. On the flip side, we can have a magnitude that's less than 1, where we have a type of annular eclipse where the moon is not fully covering the disk of the sun. That's less than 1. I was getting projections of a 0.965. So when we saw these pictures, it shows you how wrong projections can be. To me, this is more than almost 1. I mean, this is just great. So when we started this, and this is the third image, this is Nick's feed, if I'm not mistaken, because I see that beautiful orange color. Just wow. I mean, we can see a number of things. First of all, definitely it's not full, right? It's not a total eclipse. And to me, I would expect 965 leaving a ring of fire that's much thinner than this, but it's not. This is huge. Wow. I mean, this is almost picture perfect. This looks like something that somebody would have done in Photoshop. We're at the peak of
So we're seeing a little bit of corona
annularity
in there,
during
which may-
totality. This is the moment of maximum.
We're seeing a little corona in there as well. So
What we're
maybe
saying,
that's
we've got these
affecting the
beautiful
percentage.
prominences here, and this one was kind of with us the entire time.
Yeah.
We looked at this for about a couple hours. I mean, every time we got close to the feed, this was on the limb, and we had some down here, and there was an active region over here that Jenny gave us the number for. It was a plage in the one feed, but she had the number at the active region. Just beautiful. I mean, I watched through some of the annular eclipse ring of fire star party material that we have available to us here on Slooh prior to this event. Nothing like what we saw on Saturday. We had 3 amazing feeds. All of the pictures were like this. It was just an amazing event. I don't think people really realize just how good it was, because you're hard pressed to find images this good. As far as snapping away, I didn't snap anything. What kind of pictures was everybody here getting? I didn't have time to figure out how to snap images. I know you had to go back and forth between some things. There are some questions in chat. What were our panelists here getting in terms
I got some good shots when I
of
remembered
these
to
amazing
take them.
eclipse images?
Yeah, the feeds are pretty good. I was taking most of it of screenshots right off the show. And yeah, all the phases, like, well, let's put it this way. It took me about an hour to put all my pictures into a file. So, but the feeds were good. Yeah. And got lots of great pictures. I just took them right off the screenshot of the show.
I couldn't help thinking, Keith, during your deliverance there, that we were really looking at God's Photoshop.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Yeah, he must be playing around with bloody computers as well.
I have another picture here. I want everybody to go in and like this. This is under all. This image was shared, this observation was shared with us by Kane, who is one of our star students from Astronomy Space Camp. He's got 5 likes now. I'd love to see you guys all get this image and put him into the feature observations. It's pretty much the same image. And I think that's a big part of it too. Don't forget, whenever we look at anything on Slooh, it doesn't matter who schedules the mission. You know, it belongs to all of us as a community. We all get to look at the same telescopes. We're all looking at the same missions. Maybe this was different because this was a live feed, but we do have some special missions coming up this week, which we're going to talk about next. Those may be a little different, but I mean, he's a good kid. He did share an image with Gretchen. We can't share that here for a number of different issues. But Gretchen, tell us about the image that you got of Kane from his father. I thought that was
Well,
great.
Kane's dad sent me a picture of Kane on the beach with his device, watching the Slooh show and all of the other feeds for like apparently 6 hours. So he watched it from wherever it started in the west to wherever it ended in the east. And he's got his solar eclipse glasses, so he was watching it in Jupiter, Florida as well. So great stuff.
Super.
He's super inspired about space. Slooh is super inspiring for him. It's just a real testament to how Slooh, this isn't like a sales call or an advertisement. It's like the truth, the real deal. Kane was such a joy to have during Astro Camp. So bright, so engaged, so interested, and just super fun to see how he's continuing to enjoy celestial moments. So yeah, yay.
Yeah, the picture was great. He was lying on a beach. Again, he's from Florida. So he lives in the shadow of Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy. And he was just lying flat on his back with these eclipse glasses on, looking at the event. And
holding his device too. His dad was saying that he was amazed that it held a battery power for the entire time.
yeah, I didn't see him holding a device, but I remember I just saw
like a blue iPad.
looking up. But I mean, this is, one of the, I guess I can say, don't ever underestimate the effect that you have on other people by sharing with them what we do here on Slooh, or by taking your telescope out and sharing them with them. Kane, like I said, was there every day. And astronomy camp was 4 days a week for 5 weeks. We did take a break for 4th of July. There were 21 sessions of camp. He was there every day except for one. Wow, what a trooper. I mean, it just makes me feel good when I see images like this, when I see young people doing that kind of work here on Slooh. All right. Do I want to talk about something else that let me see if I can get this pulled up real quick. I do have my folder that I put together for this. I don't know if I have my images in that, but one of the things I talked about also, and I felt like I got a little bit of pushback on, was whether we're going to see Bailey's beads or not. Now, this is a phenomena that we talk about as the moon moves across the face of the sun during a total eclipse. That's that little breakup of the lunar limb as the surface of the moon passes in front of the sun, and it's caused by irregularity in the lunar surface, those peaks, valleys, craters, that kind of thing. And that was one thing in particular I was looking for, because when you look at what we saw, although we don't have the entire surface of the sun covered, the edge of the moon is still moving in front of the sun, and it's far enough away from the ring of fire that we should see it. And if you do any type of research on just Wikipedia, they're going to say you're going to see Bailey's beads. It was all over cloudy nights. There were a couple of people saying, I want to see Bailey's beads. Now, Paul said, I don't know. And this is the thing, you could have a whole group of people observing the same event from exactly the same place, and they can report seeing different things. And I thought I was seeing breakup along. He was somewhat, I don't know if we are or not, but I wanted to share some images, if I can find them real quick, of where, to me, I was seeing conclusively that we're seeing some type of this effect that I'm talking about. Did anybody else here, while I find this, see what I'm talking about? Did you notice this breakup along the limb, or was it just me?
Very subtle on some of the images. You could make out some of the terrain breakup along the edge, but not too many. But there were a few images where you could see a mountainous area on the face of the moon against the golden rim. Nick's feed seemed to be the best for that. But during the total or the throughout the eclipse, there were a few shots where you could see a little bit of edging along the area. Not a lot, but it's very subtle.
Yeah, subtle, I think, is the key word. But I thought I was definitely seeing something. I took screenshots actually, and I don't have those prepared yet. Maybe for next week. Let's look at from the prior eclipse. This is from 6 months ago. This is kind of what we saw then, and also last Saturday. Now here I made an observation, these disembodied flames. We can imagine that as the moon is slipping into this period of the ring of fire, we still had the breakup, and I definitely saw it. I have some images, they're just not ready. A little different, or maybe, yeah. To me, they were visible, put it that way. I was definitely seeing some of the breakup on the limb. We'll take a look at that. I don't have them.
I don't think I saw any clear beads like that, but some of the
Yeah, maybe beads was the wrong term. Now I said beads was the term that was used. Yeah, beads were used as a term. Maybe it was the wrong term to use, but definitely the breakup of the limb across the face of the sun. But in reverse, we saw it from the trailing edge of the moon going into eclipse, into annularity. And then we saw it from the leading edge going out. And it's usually the reverse when it's a total eclipse. All right. Anyway, I look forward to seeing more of these eclipse images. I want everybody to post them. We're going to look at something else that came up in Discord, if it lets me get into Discord.
Did any of you guys catch that special mission last week with the 6% moon? Oh, there's my pick.
Yeah, so Gretchen has the moon. I wanted to get down. Yep, we can talk about the moon first. So this was one of the special moon missions that Paul had run.
Yeah, I managed to get an image of that.
Was it 6% or less?
I think he said it was 6%.
Yeah.
It was between 5 and 6%. I ran a projection. We'll go into some of those observations. And
Right.
there's something happening here. This dot has got to be an artifact or something on the camera, because we know that even though the face of the moon is not visible, we're not seeing it. It's there. All right. This is not like,
I was like, maybe it's a star.
yeah, it can't be, unless it were in front of the moon, because the whole disk of the moon is visible. That's why I said, when we look at the eclipse, the ring of fire, and we see that new moon in the center of the page, that's the same moon that we see at full moon.
Right.
You'll hear people say, oh, we get to see the dark side of the moon. No. The dark side of the moon is between us and the sun. The dark side of the moon is actually fully illumined at that point, because the moon is tidally locked with the earth. That means that the moon spins on its axis at about the same rate that it orbits around the sun. We only really ever see one part of the moon, even if we don't see it when it's at new moon. It's actually not 50%, it's 59% because of libration, but close enough. So when we see it at full moon and we see all this beautiful lunar features that we know and love, when we're looking at new moon, it's the same side of the moon. But remember the light source, it's black. We're not seeing any light because the light's behind it. It's directly between the earth and the sun. So that's what's happening. So that artifact here, whatever that is, it's not possible. See what I mean? Because it's not like the moon had occulted something. Don't forget, the moon is moving towards the left here at about the rate of one moon's distance an hour, which is why we see an eclipse. The sun is far enough away that for all intents and purposes, it's not moving at all. It's the moon.
An artifact. Yeah.
The moon is moving about 1 hour. So this thing can't be there. I don't know what that is, but it's not like a star. And I shared somewhere a lot of these pictures where they talk about occultations, and they'll show something like this. And that cannot be. The egress would actually be out here somewhere. So I don't know what that is, but it's a great picture. And we looked at some of these. We'll go back and look at the 6% moon mission. That wasn't why I was here. I wanted to look at, but we're going to look at it. I wanted to look at this, something that, oh, where did you put it, Stephen? Stephen Amon, talking about this double shadow transit of Jupiter. So he put out a little bit of a query questionnaire for people within Slooh to go and schedule missions. I scheduled a whole bunch. We're going to look at Slooh. We're going to look at Canary 1. It's only on Canary 1 or Canary 2. It's not visible in, I'm sorry, it's not visible in the Canary Islands, visible only on Chile. Chile 1, Chile 2. I scheduled up to the shadow transits, but we need some people to help out. I'm going to go back over to Slooh and see where these missions are available. It's not until the night of Thursday. It's actually Friday UTC time. But remember, Slooh always talks about the evening of, and that's where we need to go. So I'm going to go up here to telescopes. And I scheduled them on Canary 1, sorry, on Chile 1. And I you oh, no.
Constellation
Sorry, Bob.
of Sagittarius.
Forget how I'm going to do this now. I'm going to schedule mission. I'm going to advance by telescope. Every time I do this, I have to kind of relearn because I forget from time to time. I don't do this a lot. It's the evening of Thursday, October 19th. So it doesn't appear to be a lot of stuff scheduled yet. Hank tagged a Jupiter mission right around 5:30. So here we go. So I scheduled here.
What are you on? What telescope?
We're on Chile 1. So I scheduled up to here. Now I do have certain.
The Slooh telescopes are aimed.
I do have certain powers, but I don't want to be the person who blocks out 3 hours of Jupiter missions. Okay.
Oh, I do. I'm just kidding. Joking.
I thought about writing to Paul and finding out. I think this gets us to the both shadows on Jupiter, and then they're going to be staggered. So I was thinking maybe every 10 minutes should be sufficient. What Stephen wanted to do was have enough shadow transit images so that we have very nice material for an animation. Now I have animations of shadow transits that I've done in the past. They're only like 3 frames. They're fantastic in a shadow transit across the entire face of Jupiter, of one shadow, and to have a chance for a double shadow. This is the best opportunity for a double shadow transit all year. It makes sense. Jupiter's at opposition November 3rd, I think, and we'll talk about that also later. So you're not going to get a much better chance than what we're going to see if we get together as a community. Like I said, I haven't sent an email to Paul yet. I'm not prepared to block out any more Jupiter missions than I have. So if you guys want,
I will.
chip
Isn't this
in
the
and
night of
help out.
Thursday?
This is the night Stephen Amon did schedule one mission. I'm not, and Gretchen, I'm thinking not every mission, but maybe every 10 minutes. So let 2 missions run and schedule a 3rd mission. I don't think other people at Slooh are even aware of this yet. He just posted it in Pix's chat night. In fact, it was 12 in the morning. It was right around 1 o'clock in the morning, I think, when I saw it. So I did write to him. So my last mission is where? 6:10. So I have it up to right here. The EO begins transit of Jupiter. So we have all these missions in hours worth of material. So I'm thinking every 10 minutes should get us a pretty decent animation. And don't forget, the big thing to capture here is the shadow against the planet. because a lot of times the moon isn't visible. We can get the shadow, but a lot of times the moon becomes obstructed by the face of the planet. This will be a great event if we could see this, which I think we'll be able to. But we just need some more data. So if we get some help, that'll get us to where we need to be.
Cool. Like it. I like when members all work together in collaboration like this. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, you know, he did his homework, he got a list, and you can find this yourself. Any of these events are usually on the Sky Live or one of the other many sites where we look at a lot of this data. But I like, he couldn't have made it any easier. I'm hoping that he's right. Put it in UTC time for us, has, you know, selected a telescope, did all the groundwork for us. So let's go through and make sure that he was able to steer us in the right direction to see this event.
So I'll do a couple every 10 minutes or so. What time did he start at? You started at 5:35.
I'm covered. I have you covered until 6:10.
Oh, right.
So I
that's
have,
fine.
I figured you would want to have a frame of having no transit. So I did the beginning and all of this up until here. And then the shadow is going to transit for another 20 minutes or so. And then double transit will end, and then the moons will end. So again, this is just another little event, you know, brought to our attention by a Slooh member. We had, you know, so much hype over the eclipse. This to me is just as big an event, a great opportunity, not rare. They happen from time to time. You just have to keep an eye on them. And of course, he is Mr. Syzygy. Stephen runs the Syzygy group, so he keeps track of all this kind of stuff. So I thought it was just a great chance to get together, as Gretchen said, as a community, because I don't think Stephen has the ability to blank on Chile 1, which we can do as a group. So I figured we'd give him a pitch and help him out and see if we can't get a
Did
nice
he just
animation.
schedule the one?
He just scheduled one, yeah. And I'll tell you why I think that is. He may only be able to schedule one.
Okay.
If
All right,
you
well,
have,
we need other members to jump in then. I did 6:50. I did 6:30. I did 6:20. So I've done 3.
some memberships only give you a single advanced reservation. So what is an advanced reservation for those of you at home who don't know? That's what we're talking about. So to go through and pick a telescope, you can choose, I think, 5 Slooh 1000 objects that you can do. But for an advanced reservation, picking the telescope, going 4 or 5 days in advance, now it's only 3 days, you only get one of those for most memberships. Astronomer accounts, you get 5. But if you're lower than that, you don't have the opportunity to do that. So without having the entire community getting together as a group and doing this, there's no other way to do something like that. Stephen would never be able to get the data that he needs. Yeah, he would never be able to get the data that he needs to track this event. So he needs our help. That's my.
We should oversubscribe because some of the images will be fuzzy and some are much better by Lucky Imaging. So to get a movie of clear images takes as many as you can possibly get.
Yeah,
I plunked in 4, so other people need to plunk some in.
Well, the other thing is Chile 2 is also an option during these same times.
Oh.
And what Mark is saying is totally correct, especially with Jupiter and its moons. When we're zoomed in like that, and I did talk about that a little bit during the eclipse, the more you increase magnification, the more you zoom in, the more you're trying to get detail on, the more it also reveals whatever imperfections in the atmosphere you have. So Mark's exactly correct. If we're trying to get the shadow detail, And it's taking pictures when there's a little bit of wobble, little bit of heat in the atmosphere, or a little bit of mist or whatever, you're going to get a fuzzy image. So you may not have a clear image from second to second. It's not even minute to minute, mission to mission. It could be second to second. And planetary observers know this. They know that when they've got, and lunar observers too, when they've got that magnification cranked up, they know that they're sitting there waiting to get the best, clearest image that they possibly can if they're doing a sketch. And for people that are imaging, especially using Lucky imaging, when it's in the program, it's just a way, and you're not doing that. The computer program is doing that. With Slooh, we can't really do that. We have to take our images, compare them, and hope that we get some clear ones that we can use. So the more data, the better. You've got a 3-hour window. I would have liked to talk to our chief astronomical officer before we started scheduling these missions all over the place, but I didn't have a chance. I was out all day today.
I say we just do it. It's one night and it's for a good cause.
Okay, well, Gretchen's more important than I am, so we'll put the burden on you. We have your permission.
I am
We have
not.
your permission. We have your permission to do this. Just blanket them, and whatever's left in that quilt, I'll take up. And
it'll take. People will get the message finally.
Push your toys.
This is what I think, though. What we really need to do is,
okay, go ahead.
You know, it's in Discord, and share it in a workspace also on Slooh. Like, hey, you guys, there's this amazing. Did Stephen share it on Slooh in his workspace?
He might have. Nobody goes to that. I would put this in Astronomers Anonymous.
Syzygy is a private group, but
is it? Okay.
Astronomers Anonymous would be a good place to.
It may already be there. But yeah, that's what you want to do. We might have to go back to Slooh. There is an interesting change that I noticed in Slooh that I had not noticed before.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's Stephen's times. They're in Pix's chat. It's not that far up. Use your imagination and creativity and see if you can find what he's doing, and we'll go from there. Oh, all right. I think that's enough on the event. Let's go back. I want to go back to something I noticed that everybody here might not have noticed. Now, we have been talking with the successive changes in our workspace and dashboard and that kind of thing about the demise of groups. I know that I, for one, miss the Love of Luna group. I miss the
I loved that group. I loved the Love of Luna.
Ad Astra group. There was the Astronomy for the Soul group. They were wonderful. And the Sun, of course, had its own group here in workspaces now. Space Camp, Astronomy Camp still has a workspace. But if you notice, let's just go to Astronomers Anonymous. This tab, Observations, has reappeared. This was missing, okay, for probably a year. And when you go to Observations, what do we have? We have a spot for you to post observations now, not in that main group, not in that slush fund, but now you can go and place your observations where you think you're going to get the most mileage. And that's what we have here now. A lot of people haven't realized this yet. Not a lot of likes. I mean, you're getting like 1, 2, 3, 4 likes. All right. But the fact is, this is the way the old groups were set up, where you had the discussion and then you had the tab for observations. And that's where, if you took a moonshot, you put it in with the moon group because you wanted to appeal to people that were into the moon. If you're going to write a little poem or a short story or whatever, you put that in
the discussion.
Astronomy for the Soul.
Yeah,
I know. I missed that.
Everything had a group. So
back.
when I saw this tab, where am I going with this? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like the old way of doing it. I thought it was great. Yeah, if you had an option for the moon, you put it in Luna. Yeah, Love of Luna.
I think the workspaces are the new name for groups, and I think they're coming back. I think that, well, the fact that we can even do that tells me that we have the opportunity for this, that you can go into observations. Of course, Stephen's group doesn't even have an observation yet. He does have this shadow transit info posted.
There you go. There you
So
go.
it's got that, all kinds of repulses and things happening on. But like I said, how many members does he have of this group? I don't even know. Members.
Notice that observations tab. That's new to me. Of course, my memory going back a year or
Yeah,
more. Is,
I just
iffy at best.
recognized this over the last few days. And the fact that I see this means to me that they're going to be bringing back these groups. They'll just call them workspaces. So maybe we will see a lunar group again, and a sun group, and the astronomy for the soul. I loved those. I thought those were great ways of sharing images, because let's face it, not everybody wants to look at another picture of the moon. I do. I'm a lunar observer, but not everybody is me. So let's go back, and Gretchen was talking about the moon observations, the 6% moon. Paul's image from the special missions, I think, appears somewhere around here. So this is it. This was his image of the special mission that he had. I was on these missions. I posted something on something else, and I know Sean Hutchinson was on this mission. There are a bunch of people on it, but not a lot. Why is this such a rare thing? Because the moon at this phase is very close to the sun, and it's very close to the horizon. I was getting 5% maybe in projections, because I was looking at an image that I had shared. I would put it this way, that I had taken a while ago. And it's very low. So there has to be all kinds of custom settings and presets and overrides and those kinds of things. None of us can schedule a mission like Paul did here. He did it because he can get into the override. And what a great shot.
I love how the Terminator breaks up at each end. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, again, where we're talking about lunar features. We've got those craters, peaks, valleys. We don't need to have an eclipse. We have
Just need
reflection of light.
3%.
Yeah, it's the same effect. And this is what I was talking about with horns. This is about as thin a crescent as you're going to get anywhere. See how this is different from what we saw with our Ring of Fire eclipse. The horns came all the way to where the moon moved across the face of the sun. This is about as much as you're going to get in a lunar phase. So I thought that was just a wonderful mission.
I loved it. It was great. I was like super happy. It was like really hard sometimes I try and like keep up on all the great things that are happening, and you can't, you miss it. And I was like, wait, what? Oh yeah, I want in on that.
Now, when you hit your observations now, I knew that the moon was getting thin, so I was looking at some of my lunar images. And when you click on the way pictures are set up now, it'll show whatever recent missions you have run, but it also goes by object. So when I looked for waning crescent moon, my images showed images from last year. And one of the images I had was this picture. And I ran projections. This was a 4% moon. And if we look at the 6% moon, these craters that were visible in the 6% moon aren't visible here. There's actually a crater here that you can't see. And Mark's talking about the breakup a little more pronounced as the moon gets thinner and thinner. And as Paul said in his observation, the next stop is the solar eclipse, because we're just before new moon. The moon is moving again from the right to the left. It's moving in that direction. And the next stop really is new moon, right? The surface of the moon. We won't have moon for a day or two. And I would imagine we'll see the moon again, see the eclipse was Saturday, maybe by Wednesday. I don't know. Let's take a look. When are we going to see the moon again? I'll go to telescopes, schedule mission. Let's try and schedule a moon mission. This will tell us when. We'll have moon again on Slooh. And I'll guarantee you it's not going to be 5 or 6%, although that would have been great if he scheduled special missions. Regular mission we won't see till tomorrow, 23:55. It's setting object, right? It's going to set with the sun. The moon has passed across the face of the sun. And now when the sun sets, the moon will be directly behind it. How would we know if we have special moon missions? We just go to telescopes. We don't have weather, that's okay. We go to Canary 2 and we'll go to the Q. And let's see, they'll be the last, I'm sorry, the first missions of the night. We don't have any. So those missions tomorrow will be the first lunar missions. There won't be any special overrides. How does someone decide when they can override the telescopes? First of all, we have brush, we have bushes, we have things on that mountain. We saw those during the fires. So, you know, Paul is an expert at this. It's what he does. So he would know when he's able to get these special missions. Not just with the moon. We see these with the Mercury and Venus, certainly Mercury. Mercury is all very close to the sun, either just before the sun when it rises or just after the sun sets. Those are always the first or last missions of the night. So we don't have Mercury, but we did get those special moon missions. How do you find out about them? You don't. You had to just kind of keep an eye on the queue, on the lineup of what's coming up, and you just usually have to watch them live. I think you were able to robo-snap those, but usually those special missions are kind of a reward. They're a treat for looking through the queue, for staying up late or getting up early and watching those missions run live. It's a great little reward. All right, that's my 2 cents, Gretchen, on the 6% moon. Did anybody else capture the moon? I did.
I did.
Yep, Jenny did. Okay.
Same here.
All right. So it looks like everybody.
I think I put my observation in lunar chat, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
So that
Well, I
was
said
that
mine
was the
there
5%.
because I knew we would probably go to it during the star party. So
Yeah.
I was the odd man out. I didn't get a moonshot in this week.
Oh,
jeez, I don't know if I admit that. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was working on other stuff. Yeah.
okay.
That's why we're all here collaborating. If you don't get it, someone else does, then you can check it out.
Exactly.
It's top of the hour.
Oh my gosh, that flew by today.
Yeah, I know. So we do have some fun. I did have some fun images.
More fun. We have some more fun.
Well, you know, I spend more time with these things that amuse me than I do in anything serious. The eclipse was kind of the big deal for us, I think. So anything after that is kind of takes a back seat. Anyway, I don't know where we were talking about these 6-inch telescopes, but if you ever wondered what a 6-inch f/15 looks like, this is it. These are big, okay? You don't just buy one of these and mount them and take them home. All right. This guy's got his on probably the pedestal that was made for it. So when you see one of these that come up all the time for like $1,000, which is what they come up for, this is the reason why. You don't just buy one of these and say, I think it'll fit on my mount. Okay, no. It doesn't just fit on your mount. You need to have special equipment for this, as you can see. And he's got his Airstream in the back. I would imagine he puts that on the roof because unless he's got a hatch in the back, like a school bus, it's not.
So how is he
All
anchoring that pillar mount down, Keith? Is he bolting it in
not.
or something?
No, I think it's just so heavy that it's not going to go anywhere.
Oh, okay.
See, he's got pad feet. So originally, yeah, you would bolt that to a floor. He's not. He's just
Just
That's
hoping that weight's holding it down.
I think the weight's just holding it down. Obviously, these are to help level it.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
that's going to work, I don't know.
Very
with
careful.
This cast iron pier, how you're going? I guess you get a buddy to tip it, and you turn that somehow.
You put a level on it and you start turning screws till you get that bubble zero.
Well, I think you get your buddy to tilt it first, and then because you're not going to turn it like
So
that.
is that mount cost more than that telescope?
No,
Where
usually
is the bubble?
these were made to
Where
go
is the
together.
bubble?
So yeah, you didn't buy, in fact, looks like he's got a plaque from wherever he got it from. No, you usually bought both together. You bought the pier and the telescope as one piece. I've got some more fun things here. Let me fast forward him. Okay. So this came out. Where do you set up when you're at home? And it comes up from time to time. Can you set up on a deck? So this was, I think, the guy's original picture of his deck with a tripod that he keeps under a tarp. And he built a pillar. Normally, what most people will do is they'll build the pillar first and they build the deck around it. That's because you want to sink this into the ground like a post. And they needed a new deck. So I think he didn't do that. That was the big thing. He was looking for ways to anchor the pillar that he'd built because he never went through and actually sunk this in the ground. So he needed a new deck. You can see it's all rotted.
Yeah, he's divorced now, isn't he?
No, it gets better. So this is one of the DPX 90s that we talked about, and Hank has one, and I just sold one, and he's got it all souped up. This is his rig. So he's got this post, kind of jerry-rigged with this triangle thing.
But it looks like it moves.
And this is why he did it. This was his old setup before he put the post in. So this answers a lot of questions. I know that, I hear Frankie tell stories about that monstrous telescope he had in the back that he kept under a tarp. Ireland doesn't exactly have snow like this. There's about at least 2 to 3 feet of snow here. It looks like 2 feet at least.
Where is this at?
I think out in the Midwest somewhere.
Hmm.
But he has absolutely no problem keeping his rig under a tarp in the snow. I mean, I don't know if I have questions. I wonder myself, does it damage the gear? He obviously is telling us no. Any of these home observatories that you see, like the one we have up here, so roll-off roof. The one is actually really nice roll-off roof. The other one isn't. It's basically like a shed. They leave stuff out there, although it's covered through the winter. It's unheated. It's not much better than a tarp. When it's 0 outside, it's going to be 0 inside. This guy's no problem. Just keeps it under a tarp. Before he built the pillar, this post, here it is in action.
I mean, I would think it would be
So-
fine under the tarp as long as it doesn't get wet. The cold is like whatever. It's the wet, right?
Yeah, I don't know how he.
I think just storing it under the tarp out there isn't a problem. As long as you're not using it, you're not risking hurting any of the gears when it's frozen. You're going to have to heat it up, I would think, if you're going to use it.
Why would the gears freeze though?
Well, they do. Everything freezes, and the grease in the gears is no different. And a lot of the
What is the freezing point of the grease?
well, it's depends, on the type of grease. Some of it boasts a lower percentage. For instance, just take a common sales oil like WD-40. They tell us, well, it's good for 20 below. But beyond that, it'll freeze. But
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying is I think in a lot of places, unless you have like that massive big freeze that we had in the Midwest was at 2018, then you're like in trouble. But
it depends on the scope, and it depends whether you maintenance your own scope. But if you're going to take something out of the box with what grease it came with in the Orient, it's probably not tested for anything lower than neg 10. So if you get neg 10 Celsius or better, then there's a good chance that's going to freeze. It's also a good chance your brass cogs are going to snap if they're used immediately when they're cold like that. So, if you're going to heat it up a little bit under there, then you negate that problem. But as
Hmm.
far
There's
as
one little
storing it
point.
goes, it's good.
There is one little point that we're missing here, and that
What?
is that in under that snow It's as snug as being in an igloo. That acts as an insulation, and it's
Right.
actually warmer in underneath, much warmer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as a problem unless there's moisture in there. If there's like
Yeah, no, it's
something
not
in
a
there
problem.
that,
It's not a
right?
problem because the snow acts as an insulator, just as you
It's
would
gonna
in an
keep it
igloo. Yeah,
cozy. It'll be cozy.
it's cozy in there. Yeah, the grease will be all right.
Well, I mean, if
I've
grease
left
and
I've left
oil,
mine out on a pier.
you wouldn't be able
what
to
do you call
drive
it?
your car anytime it got cold.
Yeah, for 30 years I left it out there. Never had any problem with grease freezing.
So you'd be able to use it right away then, Frankie?
Yeah, never had any problem.
Oh, there you go.
Now, my takeaway with this is a couple of things that everybody's mentioned more or less. Gretchen, you said, hey, if you can get out and drive your car when it's outside, although it's different, I can kind of get that point. My big thing is two things. I'm more worried about the optics. Is there a freezing point? Is it going to damage? This is a little SET. You can definitely see this is not a mount under this tarp. He's got a telescope under there. Okay, he's got it pointed like this. It's the shape and everything. I have to wonder, these are precision optics. Is that causing any damage? We talk about leaving things outside and then bringing them in to let the dew dry and that kind of stuff. That's definitely the opposite here. But I guess my big takeaway for this is before he has the pier. Does he honestly think he's going to go out and use this anytime soon? I mean, look at this. He's got all this snow. Are you going to sit? I certainly wouldn't go out and sit in this kind of weather if it could be used. Don't you think that if you live in an area like this, maybe like December 1st, you would just take everything in? I don't.
Well,
I don't.
If he goes out right now while it's
See
snowing,
this being used, okay? Call me crazy.
when I lived in Michigan, like I'm in Michigan right now, and even in Ohio,
I was
I did a
gonna
lot of
say,
stuff when it was snowing because that's what it did. You
I was
had
gonna
winter.
say, you're from Michigan, and that's pretty close to where I live, and it gets pretty cold out there. And if you're going beyond -5, you're not gonna stay out there longer than a half an hour if you
But you're
can help
still
it.
going to do it because otherwise you're going to be locked in for like it's like you learned how to be outside.
Yeah.
You accommodated.
I don't know what this scope's like. I know with my smaller scopes, if I go beyond -5, they get sluggish, and I don't know, I seem
Okay.
to have a feel for it, and I feel like I'm hurting them if they're going beyond that, because you can feel, even with the manual controls, you can feel it stiffening up, and it doesn't want to work in that kind of weather. So I don't want to replace the scope anytime soon, so I don't go beyond much -5 unless I got that heater under the tent.
Well,
So-
now here's a question for you. When Keith mentioned the optics, is your eye gonna like freeze to the optic, kind of like in the Christmas story, the tongue on the pole?
No, I think you'll be okay that way. It's like you don't put your eyeball on the metal.
The eyepiece is you're keeping
Well-
inside. I'm worried about, the other stuff. My whole point here is I would call this a region that's 3-season. Okay. I would block out the months where it does this. Just take it inside. It's crazy. All right. We're done with him. One final thing before we go home. I did capture this. Oh boy. And we were just talking about this. What a beautiful little telescope that came up for sale here. Holders, this is kind of for you. I know that you have that Espaboni that you love. This is an Espaboni here. This is a nice little 80mm. We talked about the 80mm from this kind of generation. Beautiful glass, nice, deep, dark green coatings. That's kind of what you look for. ED glass, so it's definitely a step above regular glass. This was selling for $200. You get to see the retractable dew shield. And then you have this. It doesn't have a focuser. So we talked about that. I know how we got on this topic. We talked about that beautiful 6-inch telescope that had an astrophysics focuser on it that was being sold without the focuser. Well, this little Espaboni is 80 millimeters, and it doesn't have a focuser either. Not only that,
It's the $200.
Not only that, it's threaded and it's an odd size. So what does this tell us?
Yeah, it's not very usable.
Yeah, the focuser that came with this was made for this tube. It's not like you can just replace it. It's threaded, which means that collar is meant to go in here. The other option is you're gonna have to drill 3 holes to line up the focus that you've got, and you're gonna have to shim it. Usually they're 86 millimeters across but I don't know if that's inside. You're gonna be hard pressed to find anything that's gonna fit this.
Yeah, you're gonna need some wizardry there, or it could instantly serve as a paperweight. But outside of that, yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot of jerry rigging there to get that to function for you.
Yeah, this is where I talked about, I bought that telescope that came in damaged, the focuser was bent, and I said that to buy a new focuser, which will fit it, by the way, costs more than what I paid for the telescope. I mean, this is how
a shame. It's a nice scope. It's too bad somebody axe murdered it.
This is how it was for sale. I mean, come on. What are you gonna do with this? You're buying this in hopes that the focus that you can find something to fit this. Maybe for $100 more, you can just buy a brand new one. I mean, I don't understand some of these for sale items. I would have to imagine that this was probably just dropped. I mean,
pieces parts. It's a fixer.
Why would he take the focuser off? I mean, that's my big thing. What happened to it? Where did it go? It's not like it had such a great focuser that you took it off of this to put it on something else.
It's possible the focuser got damaged and they had to take it off.
Oh man. And he unscrewed it and said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll just sell it.
Yeah, I'll just sell what's left.
But he didn't keep what was broken. Maybe that could have been serviced in some way. Oh, I just saw this and I thought, why?
Why?
Well, listen here, don't miss the after party because I have something more amusing for you. It will make you laugh.
Excellent.
Yeah, I have something very amusing for you.
It's 1/4 the hour. I think we're going to end it here. Thank you, everybody, for coming. For those of you who are at home, somebody asked about this. Last week's show didn't upload yet, so there were some glitches with that. We'll try and get last week's Tuesday show uploaded. If you haven't watched the Ring of Fire Eclipse show here on Slooh, please go ahead and watch that again. There were some great images. I've seen several of these. I still think of it as the most rare type of eclipse, even though I didn't articulate that very well at the time of the event. To me, having seen a couple of these, this was the definitive annular eclipse show that you're ever going to see. It was fantastic footage, not just from Nick. Nick got a lot of praise, but also from the other 2 feeds. The other 2 feeds were also extremely good. When I compare it to some of the feeds that we've seen from other parts of the world that we've partnered with in years past, this just completely blows them away. And it wasn't just one feed, it was all 3 feeds, all of them superb. It was one for the record books, like I said. And Nick,
I'll have another look for that one. I'm sorry.
And Nick did a splendid job. I looked up his telescope, so if you want to try this at home, I think maybe we'll take a look at one in the after party. This is within the means of, I think, just about everybody. If you rob your piggy bank and save your Halloween money, you can probably come home with one of these and play around and see if you can do what Nick did. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you next week. Don't 2 events coming up. I've got to cover this. Upcoming events here on Slooh. November 3rd. This is big. Mark your calendars. Jupiter at opposition. We had those opposition start parties here as part of our little homegrown group. Paul, I thought was going to do this one. I don't know if he is or not. Gretchen, do we have confirmation on this yet? I know you're away. He's probably getting over. We haven't heard one way or the other. You're muted.
Don't know yet. If
Okay.
anything, I mean, you and I can do it. You definitely could lead a fabulous Jupiter show.
We've done Jupiter in the past. I think this would be our 3rd one. I have fun with Jupiter. I've got all the material saved. In any event, someone is going to be having a Jupiter show, Jupiter at opposition.
Count on Jupiter.
in Jupiter at opposition in 2 weeks. Big event, great on Slooh, great if you go out. Jupiter is closest to us now as we come into position with it. I was going to go into solar system scope this week. I woke up late. All right. After that, we have Uranus at opposition November 13th. So about 10 days after that, I definitely see that being a little local group here. That was our first opposition show that we did. So this will be, we're coming up on 3 years with Uranus opposition
What?
shows.
No way.
That was the first opposition show that we did after we did the moon party. So Uranus at opposition. Mark your calendars for this also. We're coming up. Halloween is on a Tuesday. We're going to do a Halloween show. Get your favorite Halloween objects, and we'll just kind of do that as like a round robin. We'll go around the room. We won't have a formal show for that. Let's just have some fun for Halloween. Pick your favorite objects, schedule some missions, and when that mission runs, we will go to the Halloween object. And I'm also thinking for this fall, before we get into the holidays, I want to do a mostly Orion star party like we did 2 years ago. We didn't do one last time. If you weren't part of this and you're watching at home, pick an object in Orion that you'd like to talk about. More than one person can do one object, and we will go around the room, and you're basically going to do a 5
When do you want to do that?
minute presentation on whatever it is that you Gretchen and I may have some commentary, but this was really popular the first year we did it. We didn't get around to it last year because it was like January, February, and Orion kept getting later and later in the night. And Orion is very good early enough, so we'll schedule some times where we can have it around 8 o'clock where Orion is visible. Pick your objects. I call it mostly Orion Star Party because we'll also take objects in Eridanus, which would be the Witch Head, Cursa, if you want to do Pleiades or whatever, something in Taurus.
Well, the witch head will be covered in Halloween.
In Halloween, but you know, it's also kind of part of Orion. It's right there. Although technically it is in Eridanus, the river that flows through the celestial night sky. Thank you for coming. We're done. We'll go over into the after party. Any questions or comments, please drop me a line as a direct message. If you are at home watching this as a replay, please hit the like button. We don't know if people watch these, so hit that heart. It makes a difference when we go back and try to decide what we're going to do for next week. We're done. Thank you, everybody.
Great show, Keith. Thanks.
Gretchen, don't miss the after party. I have a bit of fun for you.
Oh, okay. I'll be there.